Highguard, an absolutely amazing game, truly deserving of the title. Concord too, because it's absolute garbage. There's a reason it died in 4 hours. I know, there are some people with a combined IQ of below 50 probably, out there screaming and waving their hands in the skies, being angry and saying, no, Highguard is actually really, really good. You just need to ignore all of the bad parts that are non-stop and very bad and no one likes them in the game, which is literally all of the game except like maybe one or two things. And then it's a marvelous game. Yes, it's really an amazing game. In any case, the most predictable disaster of the year has already passed and, well, I had my fun. But do you actually know how truly bad, honestly, things at Highguard are? I bet you don't.
Highguard launched and it went pretty much like most people expected. Oh yeah, the debut title by Wildlight Entertainment, bunch of former Apex and Titanfall devs, as well as people from even Riot. The infamous One More Thing from this last year's Game Awards came out to first an overwhelmingly negative launch, and now it's improved to a mostly negative. It's also currently not making a lot of money despite the amount of people that logged on at launch, and it lost a lot of...
Yeah, why would anyone pay money for a free-to-play game that died in 4 hours? I mean, what are you even gonna buy? The reality is, most people didn't finish the tutorial. The game was just so bad, so dull, so boring, so insulting to your intelligence that people literally quit mid first match, mid tutorial. Now that is something special. That is really something special.
Of those players pretty quickly. How bad are its earnings at the moment? Well, it's just above Smite 2. And of course, the internet discourse went on. People want to be negative for negative's sake. Actually, the game is good, but you're bad at it. That's why you don't like it. And I honestly don't care very much about that discourse because, as I've said on the channel...
Ah, yes, my favorite stupid lifeful discourse of, oh, this shooter actually requires you to be good at the game, and then it's fun. Yes, because no other shooter ever has required you to be good to have fun at the game. Yes, surely, we're breaking new grounds here, boys.
I go in looking to give every game a fair shake, and I would have liked nothing more.
I give the fairest. Everyone knows that I am completely unbiased. I always am objective. The reality is, well, I kind of just find the slop. So I'm still actually very objective when I look at the trailer for Highguard and I said, wow, this looks really, really dumb and bad and on every level possible. I am purely objective, boys. I know, it's a miracle.
And for Highguard to be something new, innovative, fresh, exciting, a new game to be excited about and play. But unfortunately, Highguard is miserably bad. I played Highguard for about 4 hours, and during those 4 hours...
Wait, that's exactly the time that the game needed to die.
All I wanted to do was stop. And that's because the game has 3 very big problems that I'm going to talk about in more detail later. But number 1, it's undercooked. It's so undercooked that it might as well be raw. If this game came out in early access, it'd still be undercooked. Number 2, it's confused. This is the sort of game that was made in a locked room.
Oh yeah. So the situation here is actually worse than just undercooked, because the devs are flat out obviously lying to you. Because the situation is like this. It's poorly optimized, it's poorly balanced, the gameplay is not fun. Some of the stuff that you do in this game just don't make sense. You literally have a setup time where you're supposed to, look at that, gear up and you're supposed to mine minerals and shit, which is stupid and redundant because chests actually contain actually all of the good stuff. So farming makes no absolute sense in this game. Plus, the map is too big. It's a 3 versus 3, and that's stupid. And the best part is, the devs blatantly just lie to our face and say, oh, actually, we have like a year's worth of stuff and content already ready to go. Because yes, that's their actual claim. that the devs said that they have like a year's worth of content already to go down the pipeline. Bro, you didn't make a base game, and you're already telling us that you have a year's worth of content in storage? Like, why not just use that time to optimize the game, or, I don't know, make the game into a game, not a disaster? You have a year's worth of content for players. Grow up.
It just didn't have enough feedback from the outside world, and when you're in your bubble developing something, you and your crew of people that are playing it every day start to enjoy it and like it, and you believe that it's good, but you don't realize that it really isn't. It is a strange mishmash of pretty much every idea for a AAA competitive FPS game from the last years. It has Apex DNA, of course, but it also has Rainbow Six Siege DNA. It has a lot of Valorant DNA. In certain ways, it has some of Deadlock's new mode Street Brawl DNA. And of course, it does have some Overwatch DNA, but it's...
Dude, we don't talk about Deadlock, but Deadlock actually currently has something like 1,000 concurrent play. Not 1,000, but 100,000 concurrent players, and it's popping off pretty hard.
all thrown in together and makes absolutely no sense in a game that its pacing and its decisions are all very, very badly thought out. And third, its generic AAA identity, which is echoed in the dialogue of the wardens of the characters when they start the match.
Absolutely. Oh my god, look at the diversity, okay? Look at the beautiful diversity. Genghis, obviously Asian Kong, a black woman. Prince Arthur, but black. Neurodivergency at its finest. Karen, not human female. And slightly not white female again, and most generic white man to exist in existence. My god, this is great. Okay, listen, I love game design like this, obviously, because it's hilarious.
Already heard in just 4 hours the same voice lines repeated like 5 times. In its attempt to take a bunch of influences and make its own identity, it's a game that has launched with like 40 skins for the different characters and weapons, and of course the mounts, and all of them feel overpriced and lacking in identity because the game itself and its characters are not interesting, neither thematically nor gameplay wise. And those 3 problems are assuming that you don't have any technical issues, which you should, but you know, to future-proof this video just a slight bit, let's imagine that the game runs decently, doesn't have a million issues with its controls, especially with keyboard and mouse, that its performance doesn't go down the drain the instant that another player enters your field of view, even on the second most powerful computer you could build right now. Oh, nice. And of course, that you're not playing on Linux or, you know, are just...
Dude, like, look at this battlefield. Like, what is this? You're just fighting in an open dumpster. This is what it feels like. Do you really want to play this? Well, obviously the answer is no. But there are some people who are gonna defend this and say, yes, you do. Look at this. Like, what the fuck? What is this? This is so poor. This is ridiculously poor. Like, what kind of unfinished, what kind of indie hobby development are we looking at currently?
Principle against anything installing at a kernel level on your computer. I think it's safe to say Highguard is a pretty big disaster. But I want to talk a bit more about those things, and I also want to talk about the reception of it, the press around it, the conspiracies with the Game Awards, and finally, in an attempt of imagination and fun times, what I personally think could make this game good, and if it would even...
Oh no, please don't. Don't do this. Oh, this game would be good if X. Okay, stop. There are games that can be good if some changes can be made. Like World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft can be easily a very good game if some very, very simple changes are made. But they don't have to redesign the whole game. In case of this, they do. Because the shooting mechanics are the only thing that's kind of okay, and that even has actual problems. Everything else about this game is just like ass. It's bad. Everything else about this game needs to be redesigned. The look, the feel, the movement, the map, the game stages, the items, the guns even actually. Like again, they shoot well, but they still probably need to be redesigned. Everything literally about the game needs to be redesigned.
Matter if it could be saved at this point. So hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new here, welcome back. It's great to see you. You're looking better than Highguard. If you like the video at any point, hit the like button, and if
Like the video
you
right
really
now,
like
boys.
the way that I cover news, reviews,
Subscribe. It takes less than a second, okay? That's it.
just in case you haven't played Highguard or you're thinking about it, I'm telling you not to, but you should understand what this game even is. It's supposed to be a 3v3 capture the flag that then transitions into either an attack or defend round
That's
on
a
a
bug.
base, kind of taking inspiration a little bit from Rainbow Six Siege and Valorant. The capture the flag element is done in a gigantic map. The map size is approximately Battle Royale-ish for a smaller Battle Royale. Think something like 8 POIs quite spread apart, because a big feature of the game is your mount that you can always just jump on and jump off. So you're meant to fortify your base in case.
And yes, now Highguard has launched an experimental 5v5 mode, which is still lackluster, but probably the most that they can push, even though people are complaining that they can't find matches. Oh boy. So the game's dead, literally dead, probably, because when you can't make matches, you know it's over. But the funny part is, if they make this game like a 6v6 or a 10v10 or whatever, well, first of all, matchmaking is going to suffer tremendously. Second of all, that's going to make mounts useless. So it's like you're adding something that makes something else relevant. Congratulations, you literally became Diablo 4.
You end up needing to defend your base if you lose capture the flag. Then you leave your base and go loot up or mine with a little Fortnite-style timing minigame, get currency that you can then use on the shop. Then after you gear up, you fight for the flag, which in this case is the shield breaker, a sword, and whichever team manages to transport the sword to the enemy team's base initiates an attack phase, under which you have a limited amount of respawns to try and plant a bomb in either one of the two base generators to take out some of the HP of the enemy team's base, or directly on the heart of the base and just win the match. Now, in a perfect world, what you might be imagining here is that
Now, in a perfect world, everyone already understands that the generator HP seems bullshit and stupid.
this game features a ton of different elements from different games done wonderfully. So you get some of the best parts of fortifying your base from something like maybe Rust. You then get the excitement and tension of looting from a battle royale. You then get the more arena shooter experience of fighting for the flag. And then you get a little bit more of a tactical defense or attack game, like a Siege or a Valorant, in placing the bombs. However, the final result of the game is that all of those things are pretty mediocre, which would normally add up to a pretty mediocre game. But in this case, I feel like Highguard is worse than the sum of its parts. Probably to do with a lot of the game not feeling very good to play. So even the imitations or heavily inspired or the way that it tries to do these elements don't feel very good, because aiming your gun and shooting it, and especially on mouse and keyboard, it just feels off. And then performance is god awful. Not necessarily because the game doesn't run at a decent FPS, but because it has zero stability. I will be running around at a very good frame rate on my mount or doing whatever, and the instant that somebody from the enemy team is on my screen, my FPS will dramatically drop to 45 and then stabilize at 60 right at the most important part of a gunfight. The combination of things going on here, especially with such a big map, also means that some parts of this game are very friendly to no communication and to just
Killed.
Parts of this game are very friendly to no communication and to just being dumb and having fun, and other parts are very much requiring your team to synergize and do something that actually is worthwhile to finally finish the match. And at the end of the day, I feel like some of that alienates both hardcore players and casual players. And of course,
making game for everyone is making game for no one, and you kind of have made a game for everyone if you know, take the aspects of literally 15 different top popular games in the last decade and mash them up together at random.
it goes without saying that game's gonna be more fun in a 3-stack, but I've played it both solo and in a 3-stack, and I didn't find much enjoyment in either. It is the combination of lackluster heroes with hero abilities that you've seen before, with a movement system slightly reminiscent of...
Honestly, I can't even tell you the hero abilities because most of the time it's irrelevant to do them.
Apex Legends, a huge map for absolute...
There's a reason something like Valorant has like 15 different abilities that all do the same one thing, create a smoke screen, by the way. Because that's ironically the only thing that you can't actually do in a game like this. Well, in a first-person arena shooter with abilities. That's the only thing you can do.
No reason. And those attack defense sequences that feel like a lesser version of Valorant or Siege, all combined and filled to the brim with useless time-wasting fluff that make the game feel like it really was never played by somebody outside the studio who didn't immediately nod, smile, and go, yeah, man, this is really good. I love it. Like their family was being held hostage. The best part of Highguard is its tutorial mission that gets to show off just a little bit more of its art style and the kind of steampunkish but medieval world that they are trying to build, that at times you can kind of glimpse what they were going for and you're like, oh, this could be cool. When I was finishing the tutorial, I was like, oh, if this were like a single player FPS game, it might be an interesting world to explore, but it's not. So instead, you get to navigate all of these different styles of play that happen during one raid match. And the most you get out of it is a ton of work put in through a ton of fluff to get something that is kind of similar to one of the high points of an Apex gunfight. But that is also something that you could get by just playing Apex Legends. And look, I play a lot of competitive multiplayer games, a lot of shooters. I've got 700 hours in Deadlock, 500 hours in Apex Legends, 200 hours.
You know what's amazing about Deadlock? That you actually have female characters, because one of the things that killed Dota was the fact that, well, literally 80% of the roster is old men. Literally old, wrinkly men. And I'm not joking. If you haven't played Dota, then 80% of the roster is that. There's almost no one below the age of 40 in Dota as a champion, as a hero.
Hours in Deadlock, 500 hours in Apex Legends, 200 hours in Rivals, God knows how many in Overwatch. I am very much saying something that only, like, I guess 2,000 people on the planet can probably say. I would rather play Concord. Concord was a more enjoyable game to play. People are talking about the fact that maybe this game would be better if it were different, if it were larger teams or more teams. Honestly, the only thing that I can recognize within Highguard as something new and original that the game brings in, and this might be just a gap in my knowledge, is that at the start of a match, you select your hero or your warden and also your base. So your base gets plopped down on the map while the POIs from the map are recognizable, but you can choose from one of 4 different bases that have their own layouts. So I guess theoretically you could have very specific strategies for a group of 3 wardens and a specific base and how to defend it. But if you have to defend your base, or if you're planning around that specifically, it's because you're losing. So not sure on that, but that is the only thing I've seen in this game that like, oh, that's cool. That's a different thing. Because even the mounts that people talk about are not very different from Realm Royale back in the day, because I do have like 100 hours on Paladins, so I guess that there's that. It's really just not very good. You get these 2 minutes to gear up that really highlight
that really don't do anything.
Something about
also it's useless
designing a game like this. What is the point of the 2 minutes to gear up? Because in my mind, what it's trying to do is give you this breather room in order for you to talk with your friends for 2 minutes while you absent-mindedly loot the map. But the problem is that there is nothing exciting going on in those 2 minutes. You are doing a repetitive task that is ingrained into.
Yeah, so I know what this is, by the way. So they obviously have devs from Apex. And, well, this is Apex, right? You open a chest and there's stuff in it. Well, it's also Fortnite and blah, 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 blah. You get the point. They wanted that, but they didn't want to, people going around looting because that matters during the shooting segment of the game. So they're like, oh, let's just add 2-3 minutes of nothing useful happening. And now they just created a situation where people are like, oh, I did not get good items in my 2 minutes. Guess we just lose the game situation. Which is hilarious, honestly.
To your brain as you mine away or open chests for some reason and make the most bare bones decisions on your loadout. A lot of the interesting looting element in a lot of battle royale games is about the tension. It's about the possibility that you're going to get caught, you're going to be heard, and then you're going to be taken down. But there really isn't any risk in Highguard during the gearing up phase, because if you're out there looting and you pick up a weapon or you pick something up and the enemy team happens to be there and kill you, you're still going to have plenty of time to just respawn and go position for when the shield breaker is announced or the flag. If the game cut out a lot of that useless time wasting, and I'm not saying take away the looting, I'm saying just directly say, hey, the flag is spawning here. Do what you will with that information, and people had to make a choice between going to loot for better gear for that upcoming fight or sprinting ahead towards that location to fortify their position to get the best advantage they can for when the fight breaks out. At least that would be an interesting decision to make, but that's not there. You're just getting told that for 2 minutes, run around.
I can't, these mobs just honestly look so pitifully dry and dull, it's insane.
On this huge map and like open chests, I guess. So you run on your mount and then you approach a chest and you get off your mount and you open the chest and you loot what's inside of it. At most you think for a minute if you prefer this gun or this other gun. And then after the 2 minutes are done, the announcer is like, here's the shield breaker forming, go there. And then you run there and that's it. Wow, great. So interactive, so fun. So just engaging to my decision-making abilities and my skill expression. So like not sleep inducing. And just like that, there's a lot of design decisions throughout Highguard that I think are not good. They are not made to make a game that is interesting. They are made to make a game that is the bare minimum of a combination.
Yeah, they accidentally seemingly... Maybe they had some decent ideas, but the end result is the reality that they just accidentally added a bunch of shit that pads the game time for no reason. That's what happened. That is what's happening in Highguard in a lot of these ways. The size of the maps, the looting stage, the this, the that, it's just a lot of nothing. It's sadly just a lot of nothing.
Nation of every other game under the sun from the last 10 years on which you can maybe spend your time on with 3 friends. Even if I imagine multiplayer shooters as a space that isn't competitive, specifically free-to-play multiplayer shooters, I still wouldn't recommend Highguard. But on top of that, there are tons of other free-to-play shooters of...
By the way, I absolutely love how, if you think about it, Highguard actually has way less of a skill cap than Arc Raiders. Because Arc Raiders has actual movement strats. This game doesn't. It's hilarious.
Every flavor...
And Highguard is supposed to be the in-depth shooter. I think that's also a reason why Arc Raiders just is performing so well still. It's because it has a very good appeal for the most casual people, but also has a very good appeal for the dedicated people. You know, for the actual tryhards, because the movement system, you know, all of that, the tricks you can do, there's a lot of skill that can go into that.
Of every subgenre, of every variety, and many of which people are way more invested in because they're better. Now, there are a ton of conspiracy theories surrounding Highguard, including the fact that there was always a campaign to ruin the game after it was the One More Thing at the Game Awards, because we wanted that to be Half-Life 3 or something. And because it wasn't, and instead it was Highguard, we hated it. We now have confirmation of something that I said from the very start, that they did not pay to be the One More Thing, because that's a slot that normally Jeff Keighley picks out and gives for free. Originally, the game intended on shadow dropping, but Jeff wanted them in the TGA.
Honestly, they're so lucky they didn't shadow drop, because if they shadow dropped it, this game would already have 200 players, maybe max playing, and the review score would still be mostly negative. Obviously, that would be still the reality, because it's just bad in general. It doesn't matter what your opinions on it. It doesn't matter if you're disgusted by the obvious woke inspiration and bland non-existence of this game. It's just a bad game at the end of the day anyway. And nothing's gonna change that or save that.
And that might have been the worst thing ever, according to people, and I strongly disagree. If Highguard had just shadow dropped, the only advantage they would have had is that if the people that stumbled onto it on day one cared enough to give feedback, maybe the game could have slowly worked up towards being better, making the changes necessary to be an interesting video game that people want to play. And maybe by the time some of the people that have now played Highguard and decided it's not for them, when they came in, the game would have been better. But I honestly think it's not worth compared to having this many people play this game and getting all the feedback immediately. Hopefully, they'll be able to salvage something from this. But if it weren't for Jeff Keighley, I don't think many people would care about Highguard, because the immediate impressions from people who would have checked out that shadow drop would have been, oh, this ain't very good. I don't think you should play it. At most, the best they could say is it's very confused, but it's got potential somewhere in there. Maybe they can find it. But it wouldn't have done much for the game. It just
No. Again, there's nothing to be done. Some games are just so bad. It's like Starfield, Diablo 4, Highguard. There's nothing there's no one thing you can change about these games to make them good. They're just bad, and your best shot at making a good Highguard is just making Highguard 2. Which sounds stupid and hilarious, but anyway. Well, that was Mug Thief 10 out of 10. Bye!